2:05. This whole process really has moved fairly quickly. If you think about it, just last Monday, jury selection started. And by Wednesday, the jury was seated. And over the weekend, prosecutors rested their case. The defense rested its case
Let me talk about
yesterday.
this for a minute and what's happening right now. This is the tension that has been growing in Collin County since 2025 when this took place, okay? And these kinds of face-to-face, emotion-rising, shouting matches really do no good, but we've seen them become more and more intense, even as this trial has progressed, Eden, as you were talking about, since last week. Emotions are boiling high on both sides, and these kind of verbal confrontations that we're looking at here right now Eden, just show us really what's right under the surface that has been brought out with this particular case.
Absolutely. And I think this is probably going to paint the picture of how things are going to be once the verdict is announced, which we are waiting for at 2:05 this afternoon. So in less than 10 minutes. But we're already seeing tensions. And this is how it's been over the last couple of days. But really now we're seeing it escalate as people are facing each other, holding signs, yelling, chanting, and things appear to be getting a little hostile.
Yeah, and certainly we hope the cooler heads will ultimately prevail here. This emotion does not help or change anything that 12 people have decided about Carmelo Anthony's future. Uh, let's just talk about that. He could be found guilty of murder, and there's never been a question about what happened. It's been a question about what happened. In other words, he's never denied. In fact, he admitted that he did stab the young man, Austin Metcalf. That's not the question. The question is, was it murder in the state of Texas? You have to prove intent. Did he intend to kill or cause serious bodily harm, cause death? Or was it, in fact, self-defense, as he has maintained and his defense team has maintained? Or will this jury acquit him and find him not guilty and believe it was self-defense? Or will he be found guilty of manslaughter, a lesser charge?
Right. And that was the case this morning. So the jury was able to consider manslaughter as a lesser charge to first-degree murder. Obviously, manslaughter is a reckless killing. Meanwhile, murder includes the intent that this was deliberate.
So, jury has reached a verdict. They're supposed to announce that at about 2:05 p.m. Central Time.
Reaction to fearing for his safety and
This in the lower right hand of this feed, you see the black dude and a white guy arguing, but it's it's things like this that they're making it. I believe they're intentionally trying to make this about race. When the dude is, by all accounts, seemingly guilty. And I just, I hate when people try to bring race into something. All this has to do is a kid went too far and stabbed somebody when it should have just been he should have just walked away. Apparently, this is the kind of thing that happened all the time, and it was always go to your tent or to your school's tent to hang out, and that's what should have happened. Carmelo should have walked away and just, I don't know, seems like he had a chip on his shoulder or something, but and now they allowed the jury to potentially charge him with a lesser crime, which, I mean, it's still murder, but now they're calling it manslaughter. And I don't know. I think because the jury was out for a very short time, to me that seems like a definite guilty verdict.
And the prosecution certainly said race was not a part of it, and the judge as well in this case.
Look at this guy.
Not a case about race, but you cannot deny that just the fact.
These are just race baiters. Race baiters.
And what we're happening now is
man, that dude's going into a freaking frenzy. These people, look at that.
That's the bottom line. But again, this is what I alluded to when I said this has brought out what's bubbling right beneath the surface. This should be a question of whether one youth acted in self-defense or whether he committed murder, period. And if justice
See,
is blind,
and this is how people get worked up
but of course, even as you know,
by one or two people in the crowd that
they were all stricken by the prosecution. That caused
just stir the pot.
challenge early on. The judge disavowed their challenge, and that has been a sticking point for people who support Karmelo Anthony.
Right. There were three potential black jurors who could have been on the jury. And I believe either three or just a few of them are educators. And so they felt that they could not be a part of the jury. So there was some controversy surrounding that decision there. I feel as though we should probably.
And anybody, you know, in Texas, you're allowed to carry a knife. Oops. The problem is the rules are different when you're talking about carrying a weapon on school grounds. And a track meet, a school track and field area is considered school grounds. And it's like, why do you have that in the first place? I don't know. I guess you can say not in the first place. You're allowed to carry. You're allowed to have a knife, but I think if you're going to carry something like that, you should know where you can and cannot carry one. And school grounds are definitely somewhere you cannot carry.
And so, but he didn't say it was common or it happened often, but it was something that took place from time to time.
So if you listen to some of the testimony of the witnesses, and again, the state, I believe, called 21 witnesses, going from memory. The defense, I believe, called a half dozen. Some of those witnesses for the state said it doesn't happen, it's rare, it doesn't happen at all. Witnesses for the defense says, hey, it does happen. So that's kind of a draw there. Who's telling the truth there, right? Does it happen? Doesn't it happen? Okay. The question is what happened under that tent, and whatever happened, if young Austin Metcalf put his hands on young Karmelo Anthony, did the defense, did the violence that responded to that, was it above what it should have been? Was it adequate? That's the question. Was it in self-defense? Was it a vicious intent to take his life? That's what the jurors are asked to decide.
Let's also get into some of the closing arguments. Attorney Mike Howard, this is for the defense, because the defense went first during closing. Oh, okay.
Let's go to Alex Boyer.
There we go.
Alex, when I spoke to you during the noon show, you said that you saw prayer circles.
No.
It looks like things are certainly different now as we are watching what's unfolding behind you. Just describe the mood. What is going on? It seems like there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to step out of the way so that you can actually get a better view for what we are seeing here right now. We're about 20 feet away from the other camera angle that you guys have been seeing at this moment. Can you guys hear me in the studio?
The sad thing is,
can you guys hear me back at the studio?
Unless something goes horribly wrong, I believe he's going to be found guilty. The sad thing is
that other camera angle is
that
seeing some of these live pictures, so we're kind of standing behind
certain people, certain groups, certain, instigators are going to take this to start freaking rioting again.
This trial has been in session to try to minimize the amount of people who are driving through and accessing this area.
That's what's going to happen. You already got Black Lives Matter out there the last few days calling this a racially charged trial. And then that was
looks like at least 7 or 8
some people are calling it a confirmation that's racially charged because there are no black people on the jury. And they tried to get black people on the jury. I'm sure they tried. But none of them could honestly say they would be fair. I mean, what are you supposed to do? And to make it about race, just to make it about race, we're talking about a black kid who stabbed a white kid, not the other way around. Can you imagine if it was the other way around?
and then they began chanting, many of them talking about justice for Karmelo. I'm going to throw it back to you in the studio.
Your coverage, by the way, has been simply outstanding. You and Lori Brown have done great work since the very beginning of this. And now we're coming to this heightened
justice for Karmelo. What the F, man? Austin Metcalf is the kid who's dead. The hell you mean justice for Karmelo? How about justice for Austin?
And it looks like the jury has reached a verdict and it's going to be announced. So we're going to bring you the details as soon as we find out what they have reached. But I think we should probably reset, if you're just joining us right now, as to what is going on right now. The jury started deliberating at 10:52 this morning. And at 2:05, they have now reached a verdict. We were waiting for that verdict to be announced. 2:07 right now. These things sometimes take some time. And things have certainly escalated outside of the Collin County Courthouse. You can see law enforcement out there.
So less than 3 hours. I mean, when something is so obvious and so lopsided with legit evidence, even from witnesses of all colors that were there, meaning, student bodies, students that were there. and even witnesses for the prosecution, witnesses for the defense who brought in a bunch of people, to supposedly defend Karmelo, their testimony actually backed up the prosecution that Karmelo was the aggressor, that he could have just walked away, and he didn't. It seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder or something. And he was not attacked by multiple people like some are saying. That didn't happen.
Even people having conflict with police out there and getting arrested out there because of their emotions. These moments are very tense and very intense, but you have to control your emotions in this moment. And so we have to watch that as well as watch what's happening in the courtroom. It's going to be coming down. If the jurors are back in, it could very well be that they're being polled individually, asking if the verdict is theirs and theirs alone. And then that'll be read by either the judge or the foreperson, what that verdict is.
And because this trial really has moved quickly, I kind of want to get into some of the developments that took place this morning. So the jury was able to consider manslaughter as a lesser charge to first-degree murder. Manslaughter is, just reckless killing, right? He did not, arguing that Karmelo Anthony did not intend to kill someone. He just happened to kill someone. Meanwhile, murder includes the intent that this was deliberate. So the jury is having to decide between manslaughter as that lesser charge or first-degree murder. Now, as we talked about this earlier, the difference really is the maximum sentence.
According to what's been said in the courtroom, according to reporters that have been in there watching this whole trial,
for murder, first-degree murder, the maximum sentence is really.
He had that knife in his bag. Carmelo Anthony had the knife in his bag.
Between 5 years to 99 years in prison. During closing,
he had his hand in his backpack the whole time. He was very aggressive. It seemed like he wanted to get into something with somebody. Why? Who knows? I mean, am I reading that wrong? I suppose I could. I wasn't there, right? I'm just going by what has been said by witnesses according to testimony in court.
Altercation there. Attorney Howard also claimed that Anthony did have the right to defend himself against somebody much bigger than him. That was something else that was brought up, was the difference in size between both of these 17-year-old boys. But prosecutor Bill Worsley, he argued that Anthony showed up with a mindset that, which is why he had a knife with him. Prosecutors argued that self-defense.
Red Solo Cup. I know, me too, man. I got this my stomach is nervous. Not necessarily for the verdict, but for what's going to happen after. And I hope people don't get crazy, because that would be, we don't need another George Floyd situation all over again. Like, people should have learned by now.
Like this, you talk about Bill Worski waiving his opening opportunity in closing arguments. That's a strategic move, right? Prosecutors, because the burden of proof is on the state, they get to open, the defense makes its close, and then they get to rebut that, to have the last word. He wanted to stack all of his time. So he deferred, if you will. We'll hold ours and reserve it and wait so he could have this powerful and emotional planned close, which is what he did. That's what an attorney is supposed to do, to try to press their claim to the jurors. And the last voice you hear may be the last impression. And so we'll have to see what this jury decides.
There you go, justice for Austin, finally.
A little bit on our air is that Bill Worski and Toby Shook.
You know, this has nothing to do with black or white or race. This just has to do with one kid killing another kid. Kid. Not black kid, not a white kid, just kid. Sheesh.
And now they, on another historic case, are at opposite tables in the courtroom.
And we will see how, how the jury decides, what decision they have come to. We are waiting for them to announce their verdict.
Punky, I think you're right.
This case certainly got national.
I mean, it already seems like these people are way overly charged up, and they're missing the whole ever-loving point of this. They really are. And I think because they're getting airtime, they're getting screen time, maybe they're getting paid too. But
no evidence that they knew each other prior to this incident.
I feel confident that all those police, DPS, all that are out there are not going to put up with much.
It has raised a lot of emotions too.
And mainstream attention. New York Times, CNN, Fox News Channel, News Nation, all covering this. And we've seen either family members of these folks involved or those who are speaking for them all across TV in the weeks leading up to this trial. Now, even though Judge imposed a gag order on those immediately...
I'm not monetizing. No, there was no history between those two, at least not that anybody knows of. And by anybody, I mean of all the witnesses that were called in by either side, there was nothing between them ever. And I don't know, unfortunately, I see this, even though there's clear evidence.
What was interesting to me during this trial is,
that Austin Metcalf didn't necessarily do anything other than to, high school kids playing tough guy.
I think that was probably strategic too.
Apparently, Karmelo Anthony was told by various people in the area 15 times at least to leave, to walk away, to get out of here, to go to his own tent, his own school's tent. Get out of here, leave, get out of here, leave. 15 times, and he didn't. All he did was yell expletives back at the crowd. He said, "You're a bunch of..." The P word, he said, "You're a bunch of..." Yeah, that. And
I don't know that they felt like they needed to bring that emotional wound to the surface to press their claim and prove their point to jurors. Through video, through tearful testimony of many of their 21 witnesses, I think...
I got to say, I'll be very disappointed if there's riots and destruction and all that. I'll be very, very disappointed. Because this obviously is not anything that's rigged. Karmelo admitted it to police when they picked him up. I think the police officer called in on his radio and said, "I have the alleged suspect." And he goes, no, not alleged. I did it. I mean, right there.
And for people who are watching and maybe wondering too, the prosecution called 21 witnesses. Initially, I believe 35 witnesses were expected, and the defense called a handful of witnesses. I think I've heard from different legal experts that the defense really doesn't even have to call witnesses in this case. All of this falls on the prosecution side in terms of trying to prove that he is guilty. So that is why, if you think, oh, there's a disparity, why were there 21 witnesses on one side and a handful of witnesses on the other side? That is probably why you see a higher number on the prosecutor side.
Well, sometimes less is better. Okay, we believe the jurors are back in the courtroom according to the families are in the courtroom. Okay. The judge is not yet on the bench. The families are now back in the courtroom. And, time is very flexible. There's something in Texas called legal time, lawyer time. And whatever it is, it's not what's on the clock on the wall. So this is a big moment, right? And this is going to be a moment for these jurors. They've been brought into this. It's a supercharged case. Maybe they hadn't reached conclusions, and we hope that they were honest in voir dire, that they had not come to any conclusions about this case. Certainly they heard about it to some extent. You can hear about a case and not
said, not in Texas. I hope they squash that real quick. I hope they do.
But they've been in this.
Say, no, we're not going to have any of that nonsense here. Don't even. They haven't announced it yet. They're waiting for the judge to come to the bench. Everybody's in the courtroom. The family just arrived.
Yes, we should. As we've talked about this, I mean, this has gotten national attention, which is why so many people have come out to.
And then, okay, he's guilty. If that's the verdict, he's guilty. And then, how much time do you think he's going to get? If it was straight out first-degree murder, he could face up to 99 years.
About 20 minutes ago.
So I guess that's good. And now that it's manslaughter, I don't know what that would make it.
And we'll go from there.
But I think still he's gonna go for a good while.
They narrowed it down to 12 people. And over the course of 2.5 days, the prosecution called 21 witnesses. The defense called a handful of witnesses. And so now it is this case is really in the hands of this jury. It is up to them. They have made their decision. And so we are patiently awaiting to find out what that decision is.
Yeah,
what have they decided?
It's done now. They've made their decision. They've come to a verdict. And we'll soon hear that. And then the punishment phase, sentencing phase will begin. And Austin Metcalf's brother is in the courtroom next to his mom right now. And so this has been an emotional burden for all involved. All these kids are good kids. They all had good grades. They all had bright futures. And in a moment, whatever happened under that tent has derailed a number of lives here.
I think it was also during the trial, people have talked about how emotional it was. I think you mentioned this too, Sean, that having to see the surveillance footage, having to see just what unfolded in the moments after this altercation, this interaction between these two 17-year-old students. And so, this is probably, I would imagine, emotionally taxing for both sides, for both families, and to just consider that a lot of these friends who were part of the track team, who went to school with both students, it's got to be very emotional for them as well to be a part of this and to witness all of this play out. So we will see, what the jury has decided momentarily. Again, we were expecting for that decision to be announced at 2:05. It is 2:20 right now, so they're a little bit late, right? We're a little bit 15 minutes behind schedule, but I think that sometimes happens in these kinds of cases.
Right, and so
yes,
we thought it would come at 2:05.
Stone Batty. This was a high school. There was a track meet going on at a high school in Frisco, Texas. Each high school that's there competing has their own tent, like their little tent where they gather, they talk about what's going on or their matches. And this kid came up and decided to park himself in that tent, and they told him to leave, go to your own tent, your own school's tent.
Okay, well, how long is this jury going to?
And he refused. They got into an altercation with the kid from that school, his Austin Metcalf. And apparently there was a slight shove. Now people said, yeah, Austin Metcalf pushed him, but he didn't push him hard enough to knock him down. He kind of like pushed him in the shoulder and said, come on, get out of here. And then at that point, Karmelo Anthony, who had his hand in his backpack, started to, touch me again, see what happens, or, touch me again, see what happens. And he had his hand in his backpack. And at some point, after that very short altercation, he pulled out a knife, stabbed Austin Metcalf. It was a 2 to 4 inch gash that broke through his sternum and pierced his heart. And Austin just bled out there in a matter of, I want to say seconds. It wasn't very long, but he was gone pretty quick. He bled out almost immediately. And he ran. He threw the knife. He ran. Police caught him after they got the description. I mean, it shouldn't have happened. You know, they're trying to say self-defense. He was going to get beat up by all these people, which surveillance video proves otherwise.
Murder trial in Collin County.
That's right. The jury was able to consider manslaughter as a lesser charge. Initially, Karmelo Anthony was facing a first-degree murder charge. So now is this manslaughter or is this first degree? Manslaughter implies that this was just a reckless killing that kind of, in that spur of the moment, in fear maybe of his safety, he felt that he was in danger and he decided to defend himself. That is what the defense is arguing. Murder includes the intent. You know, was this intentional? Did he mean to do this? There were some people who asked the question of why did he bring a knife to a track meet? And there were some more details that were brought out about that knife.
So let me interject this. Lori Brown is in the courtroom and she is able to send out messages. And she is saying to us now that the attorneys are talking to the family members. And she believes that the attorneys are preparing the family members of, the victims' families, the defendants' families, not to react to whatever that verdict might be. Judges don't like emotional outbursts in the courtroom, and it's important that families try and contain themselves. That's not easy. It's not easy, but that's probably what's happening now. And she says Karmelo Anthony, she believes, has his head down. She can't see his face. He's looking down. You might imagine.
Yeah, but Karmelo, this one spells it with a K.
Because
I think Karmelo Anthony, the basketball player, spells it with a C, if I'm not mistaken.
What the verdict is. It looks like we have someone joining us on Zoom, Russell Wilson. Russell, thank you for joining us here. We are waiting for that verdict to be announced.
Nice hair, bro.
What do you make of the fact that, I mean, the jury has been deliberated for 3 hours. So they reached a decision just before 2 o'clock. Just in your experience, I mean, what do you make of them coming to this decision fairly soon?
That's a guilty.
I think, it would be consistent with there not being much disagreement among the 12 jurors. It wouldn't necessarily take very long to resolve those disagreements. And so I think it was really kind of a narrow issue, if you will. There wasn't really a doubt about, who done it and how it happened or any of those types of things. And so perhaps based off of what they heard, jurors had a strong feeling one way or another. Eventually that came to a unanimous verdict.
Russell, it's Sean. Let's go in on what the two narrow really questions are. Narrow questions.
Yeah, I think one of them would have been, did they believe this was murder or manslaughter? And then if they did believe that it was either one of those crimes, did they believe that it was justified? And that, viewed from the standpoint of Karmelo Anthony. And, they had throughout the trial extensive testimony regarding really an incident that took place, very quickly in a matter of seconds. And so when they're sitting there as jurors, even though they're not deliberating, they themselves are forming at least individual opinions regarding the evidence. And so the first time that you actually deliberate as a whole is in jury deliberations. But when you're sitting there through a trial and you hear testimony, it has to cause you to form an opinion or some thought one way or another.
Yeah, so I did want to show a couple of very, very short street interviews that I mentioned last night. But I don't want to miss when they come with a verdict, so I'll show those afterwards.
And the judge provides the law, and the law then either affirms what your thoughts are, and so I think that was probably what was happening here. again, in the scope of issues that cases could have, even though this is a nationally watched case, the issues are kind of narrow.
Right. And you've talked to many of your jurors, both as a prosecutor and defense attorney. Do you find they retire to that jury room and, Russell, they kind of do a straw poll to see where they are on guilt or innocence, and then they start really deliberating and look at facts or evidence or revisit testimony from that point forward, if need be?
Right. Yeah, I think usually the first thing they do is select a four-person, and then they usually talk about that. They maybe spend time going back over the jury instructions again, which wouldn't take very long. And then if you take a straw poll or a vote and you see where people are at on issues, then you may ask a person why they felt this way or that way. And then if their recollection of events is different, or the reason that they feel one way or another is different, somebody may point out something in the law or something in the evidence that might cause the person to view it a different way. And that's kind of how deliberations proceed. And there's usually a few folks that we would characterize as followers, meaning that they, based off of their disposition, are more likely to follow a person who's firm in their belief. And so that usually, is how deliberations proceed. There's a person or persons that are firm, and then other individuals have to either be as equally firm for the verdict not to be reached, or they have to be open to a discussion. And over the course of that discussion, the firmer the person's belief is, then the more likely the verdict is going to go that person's way.
Okay, so we understand now that the jurors are being brought in, and we don't have a lot of time to go into more about the minds of jurors, but you want both firm and followers on any jury.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess before we go to that, I mean, we're waiting to find out what the decision is. Let's talk a little bit about this trial in terms of, we did get more insight in terms of why Karmelo Anthony was under the tent, that he had a friend, that it was raining, he went for cover. But the defense never explained why he brought this pocket knife. It was just a small knife, 3.5 inches, why he brought it to the track meet. Do you think that in terms of on the defense's side, was that a
That's because they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about the knife. They didn't want the jury focused on the knife. They didn't want the knife to be say, yeah, well, why does he have a knife? The word knife.
I mean, I think
prosecution, the defense doesn't want that. That's why they didn't want to talk about it.
I think their point was it was lawful to have it, and risking a violation of school policy was indifferent. When you think of a person having a knife, the knife is displayed, and jurors have to form a belief if they think that knife can be used for other uses.
Yeah, I agree with that. That comment there.
Be used as a weapon. So, in the range of knives, if you will, one of the things
back in my day, and I'm not, it's not like the 50s or anything, but
which suggests that under
when I was going to high school in the early 80s,
suggest it is actually legal.
And then,
to carry
elementary school before that in the hood,
could have other potential uses.
When you had a fight or you were going to arrange for a fight or two gangs were going to fight, it was always sticks, pipes, bottles, pipes, yeah, no bottles, fists, yes, obviously, knives.
Regardless of the reason.
No, it was funny. They would have like a meeting before a rumble, and at least where I come from, when people got into a fist fight, it was just a fist fight. There was no, now people just want to freaking literally kill each other. The fist fight, road rage. Somebody got to shoot the other guy. It's like you don't think about it. When you shoot somebody and they die, you're in prison forever.
And it might have been an opportunity for the state to go back through in a different way the events as they unfolded from his seat. So I think.
So apparently the jury is in the jury box right now. So we should have a verdict.
Judge Roach is on the bench and said that we are now on the record to bring in the jury, warning those in the courtroom any outburst, a person will be held in contempt. Defense Attorney Mike Howard standing with his arms on Karmelo Anthony, and they are standing now waiting for the jury to enter the jury box with the verdict.
So at any moment, we will hear what that verdict is. Again, if you are just joining us right now, the jury started deliberating at 10:52 this morning. They reached a decision a little before 2. And so we were waiting for that verdict to be announced at 2:05. It is 2:32 right now. Sometimes, these things take a while in terms of getting everybody into the courtroom, explaining the rules. Our Lori Brown telling us that any outburst, a person will be held in contempt. So just kind of, letting them know what the rules are, just so that, they have rules in place and they want people to follow, those rules.
It says here, Lori is telling us, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder.
Guilty.
That is the verdict from the jurors, according to Lori Brown, who is in the courtroom.
Okay, we're hearing that first. Guilty of murder. We are finding that out.
And I think, Russell Wilson, with the brevity of this deliberation, I don't think that's a surprise to many people.
Well, right. So, what we know is that, they've rejected the self-defense claim. They believed that the use of deadly force in response to the shove was excessive. And that's not necessarily a surprise based off of the totality of the circumstances. So I think, that was their verdict.
Now we'll see what happens with this jury in the punishment phase.
Right. So we're probably going to see a brief break, and the parties will get a chance to gather themselves, if you will, and the judge would have to decide if he wanted to go ahead and begin the punishment phase.
I don't know why people are so.
Maybe
it was so freaking obvious. Even
or if he wanted
supporters of his.
Given that he's got the jurors sequestered,
I don't understand the outrage and the shock.
Get back started on testimony.
I think if they would have came back with a not guilty, that that would have been something to get upset over.
Who's a 3.8 GPA, has no bad record, has no juvenile history, has no engagement with law enforcement, has made this decision that has left him guilty of murder. How do you work in the punishment phase? What do you try to do to limit?
I think you gotta first you want to console your client and the family briefly, but you're going to have to quickly turn to your anticipated punishment evidence, which is going to be the state again going first. You're going to hear more character information. It takes a while when you get an adverse verdict for the person to really accept and understand it. The state may be moving to have his bond held insufficient, meaning that if he walked in the courthouse today, that he won't be walking out tonight.
So there you go. He's been found guilty of murder, not manslaughter, as the jury was given the option. And I think that says a lot. It sounds like the jurors were very, very on the same page. And, maybe they were given the option of manslaughter to appease some people. But when you come down to it, dude's guilty. I don't know, people are out there crying and yelling, or they're going to, cause disruption. That's not cool.
While I have you, Russell, let's talk about the converse side of that. Let's talk about at the prosecution table. I have covered trials where you were the prosecutor and you secured the win in the courtroom. You got the conviction. What happens to the family of your victim in this moment? What do you say to them as the prosecutor?
We're actually there's a sense of relief for them regarding the verdict being the verdict that they wanted it to be. but you're still preparing as well as the prosecutor. So you'd say, brief words of comfort.
Yeah, I just got this as well.
Experience some degree, like I said, of relief.
That
Probably
he
talking to
did
them about who our first
witnesses who were in the courtroom say he did break down. He was crying.
Maybe
His bond is now gone,
baby photo
and he is in custody. They
I
took
want
him
the
into immediate
graduation
custody right now.
that was missed. I want the life to be expanded and explained, and for people to understand.
You see a couple of police officers heading towards something in a hurry. They're walking towards a gathering under that tree in a hurry.
To emphasize the impact of the death, and both of these young men, I think, had no known criminal history or things like that. There's no drugs involved. They're both in high school athletics. So both sides will be talking about the promise of the individual, and the state will, of course, be saying, our chance to come into our promise is gone.
Right.
And the defense will be saying, that the gravity of what was done is struck now in a different way.
Yes.
And they'll be getting Karmelo's parents ready as well, I think, to
see. But they got these people who want to protest, calling it all race related. It's race against blacks. It's like, you got nothing to stand on. I mean, the dude was guilty. This is not like, well, maybe he wasn't. Maybe somebody else did. No, this was clear cut. He did it. He even admitted it to police when they took him into custody when it happened, like 5 minutes after it happened. I mean, you can not like the verdict all you want, but you got nothing to stand on towards, on the opposite side. You got nothing.
But
this is what I call the hard truth. I mean, how much more obvious and factual does it get?
I want to stay with what's going to happen in that courtroom, because this is where we are now.
Right. Some of the jurors, it will depend, some of the testimony was emotional.
Hey, Joe.
In very, very emotional cases, the jurors themselves still aren't going to be free to talk with anybody or anything like that. So I think they would need to remain relatively composed, and they have to still address what the punishment is. And there will be, perhaps broader disagreement on how you punish this crime.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a universal agreement on, and then you have laws, when it comes to how you set punishment, the jury instructions are very broad. It just basically says you can consider the person's background and nature, but what makes a person say a life sentence versus what makes a person say a lower number, and how firmly they feel about any of these things. The jury instructions and punishment will advise jurors that it's an aggravated offense, meaning that any sentence that's imposed, that he would not be eligible for parole until at least one half of that sentence is served.
Correct.
And so jurors sometimes, they'll instruct it not to, may say, if we impose a 20-year sentence, then he could not get out until 10 years. And you may have the prosecution, saying, that Austin would have lived until, into his 70s.
Yeah, whatever the average is of
and so you're gonna have those.
The average American male, whatever your longevity is, I don't know, 70, 75.
It's more difficult.
I think if they do 20 years and he's eligible in 10, I think that's way not enough. That's
tougher areas for the lawyers as well. There's not very low chance that a case gets reversed because the number is wrong, if you will. So you can't, if you know, 20 can be right, 5 can be right, and 55 can be right. It's really all up to the jury. And so, you know, the defense needs to attempt to put pressure on the jury, if you will.
So per
regarding the
Kevin
verdict.
Steele, and Carmelo
Same
Anthony
with the
faces up to
state.
life in prison with the
But
possibility
you wouldn't expect the state
of
to
parole.
suggest 10 or 20 years.
No,
So
absolutely
if life
not. I
is
don't think that they would suggest that. I think
75,
what they
let's
would
say 80,
suggest
make it a round number. If life
are
is
more
80, that means he'd be
significant
eligible
punishment
around
numbers.
in
You
about
know,
40
this
years.
kind of gets into what we would see in the way of what we're going to hear.
I mean,
in
no
punishment.
number is correct. No amount of
You
time.
know, so
I mean,
without
it
knowing
just
what evidence
sucks
they intend
in
to
the
put
first
on,
place that this even
it
had to
could
happen,
just,
right?
what I would
This is
call
one of
an
those,
emotional
you
impact.
know, no,
And
it's
makes
not a
it
win-win
really
situation for
that
anybody.
there may have been some scientific testing done.
But this is your chance right now to make an example, to set a precedent that if you do something like that, this could happen. You could go to prison for a really long time.
The track meet this day. So those are all possibilities.
We're just getting an update from Lori Brown in real time. She is saying that the jury has left for a break. The sentencing phase is going to start next. So if anybody leaves the courtroom, they will not be allowed back inside. Russell Wilson, thank you so much for your insight. We do want to see what is going on outside of the Collin County Courthouse. So our Alex Boyer has been out there since this morning. So Alex, if you can hear me, just explain what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what is going on around you now that the verdict has been announced.
Sure, Eden. So, and Sean, I have to say, I was really surprised to hear the kind of lack of verbal reaction or kind of loud reaction when people here in the crowd learned that Karmelo Anthony was found guilty of murder. There was a crowd gathered in the front, as you had seen a short time ago and have been seen from our different camera angles, kind of gathered listening for those first words. They heard the guilty verdict. Many kind of moaned, and then the crowd has been like you're seeing it now. It's been interesting to watch from where I'm standing. I have not been able to follow the crowd as closely as some of our photographers. I can tell you that my colleague Amelia Jones is also kind of with the crowd, so she'll have more of that perspective as well. But the crowd has been very calm, some minor outbursts, and then they've been kind of following in like a group to one side of the courthouse to the other as my photographer John pans across our tent here and the trees. It's a little difficult to see, but then that is kind of where the bulk of the crowd is starting to move. So officers remain on the other side of the barrier that I mentioned that's separating the parking lot from the steps of the courthouse. Most people here seemingly seem to be taking those orders from officers into account and staying on this side of the barrier. But again, emotions differing to some degree, but no outright loud emotion. There was one moment where I did see a woman on the ground. I think you're maybe watching that now, if I can see from our screen here. Some people sitting on the ground kind of reacting to it that way. Folks were kind of following that person's lead and kind of saying, I heard somebody say, stick together, let's all stay together. And that seems to be the sentiment out here. But all in all, relatively calm. Still a very large police force, as you might expect, out here keeping an eye on things. I have noticed a couple of additional law enforcement trucks, vehicles, constable vehicles that are in the distance there arriving, kind of creating more of a barrier separating the crowd from the entrance of the courthouse. But that is really what we are seeing right now, keeping an eye on the developments outside. Certainly a packed scene, though, as I mentioned earlier. I would say between kind of the scattered people across the parking lot and the group that has remained up front, easily a couple hundred people are here. They were waiting to learn the fate of Karmelo Anthony, and now they know.
And we watched in real time as a woman was on the ground being consoled, visibly shaken by that verdict there.
Yeah, there is in the same space today, Alex Boyer, joy and pain, you would agree with those folk outside the Collin County Courthouse.
Oh, absolutely. You know, from day one, when I was here last Monday at the beginning of the jury selection process, keep in mind that there were some 600 potential jurors that were brought here. That was a massive number, larger than most high-profile case, because the judge said from the beginning that he was going to get this right, and both sides ending up with the panel that they chose. Again, as we knew early on when the jury was sat, there were no African Americans on this panel, but still several minorities on this panel that decided his fate. As you mentioned, though, Sean, certainly, of course, we have supporters for the Metcalf family, supporters for the Anthony family, and then just people in general who have really followed this case from the beginning, since it was such a high-profile tragedy from the get-go happening here in North Texas, involving these two young men, both 17 years old at the time, Karmelo Anthony 19 now. So, of course, lots of focus, eyes, and attention leading up to when everything began last Monday. As the week progressed and as both sides started to present their case, it would ebb and flow with the groups that we would see here. Some groups louder than others. But then at the same time, we were also seeing people here that were very neutral, people that just wanted to come and pray with others and be someone that they could lend an ear to. I can tell you one day there was a pastor who was sitting out here, a non-denominational pastor who was here, and he was sitting down in a folding chair and offering free hugs and an ear. And I can tell you that certainly many people took him up on that. No doubt a lot of people are going to want to decompress and offload what they're learning today.
Yeah, and you talk about the many people, the supporters, but then you talk
She
about
was
those who
murdered,
weren't in either camp, people who wanted to see what justice
Right.
would look
and
like
a fellow
in this particular trial,
sailor
and
had
so
been
now they've seen it. They've seen it play out.
found guilty and sentenced to 44
Right.
years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the first
Angelina
time for many people.
Resendez
This
is her
was the first
name,
time they've ever come to a trial. And
and
as you
she's
know,
from
Sean, probably many
Brownsville.
yourself and Eden as well,
So that
these
happened.
trials
That
are rough
sentencing
for
just
the
happened
average
today as well.
citizen and resident. This isn't something they experience every day. And this, of course, was a very, very emotionally charged, high-profile case that drew a lot of opinion and feelings on either side, or as you mentioned, many folks just feeling bad, calling this a tragedy, which of course it was in and of itself. And then again, a lot of them coming today to the courthouse, wanting to be here in person for what you could argue, of course, is a moment in history, a sad history, of course, in terms of the gravity of the situation, justice being served by this jury, no matter what, how you feel about it on either side.
Absolutely. And that jury now, according to Lori Brown, is back in the courtroom. The punishment phase is underway. They have waived opening statements and are going straight
So,
to witness.
hey, Christine, what up? Yeah, I'm
Last week,
originally from Chicago, and I've been to Cubs games in April and May where it's been
that was
snowing.
his goal. And
So I'm all too familiar with short, very short summers. Welcome
be
in.
done with punishment before
Nice
the
to
weekend.
see you there again.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think you know, many of my
a
colleagues
waste
here,
of
that we've been speaking with from other outlets who have been covering this from day one.
two young
certainly felt that
lives.
the judge
You know,
wanted a
one
tight
should still be
timeline. We
alive,
saw
and the
from
other
day one that he was going to go from 9
ruined his
a.m. to
life.
6
He
p.m.
just,
every day.
you know,
He
and
stuck to
you know,
that, and in fact, he held testimony all day
it's
on
like nobody
Saturday
cares to
for that
think
as well. He
anymore.
went from 9 a.m. to 6
They just
p.m.
explode
and
and
that was
react.
when the prosecution
It's like,
rested.
what if I
They
stab him?
gave
What if he dies?
their
What if I
jury
hit
about
this guy and he
2 p.m.
dies?
on
What if,
Saturday
you know, do I
evening.
need to get into a
The
fight?
prosecution rested. We were
I should
surprised
just walk
because we
away.
knew
That's
that
the kind of thing that should be,
35
you know,
witnesses that were expected to
unless they
testify
come at
ended up
me,
resting after the medical examiner having only called
but
21.
nobody
But
thinks
obviously
about
they
that.
felt like
Everybody
they
just
made their case,
reacts.
and based
And
on what the
if they
verdict
have a
was
gun,
today,
they just want to
they
shoot.
did in their eyes. So you're right. The judge saying that he wanted to have this wrapped up by this coming Friday. Again, here we now find ourselves.
That's right. So the judge said on Friday, this past Friday, he wanted this thing wrapped up as soon as possible. So I was surprised to hear that they had court on Saturday. They brought the jury in, lawyers came in, they had court. And I'm like, on Saturday? Apparently the judge really did want this thing to be over. And he was hoping to be over, you know, this week. And sure enough, it's over. All right.
Since we've made our point, all we need is to create this reasonable doubt. That doubt was not created on the question of murder.
And it looks like we are hearing from Karmelo Anthony's mother. I believe she has taken the stand. So she is saying She was asked, do you believe he regrets it? She says, yes, I know my son. He is very sorry for what he did. Please have mercy on my son. And then she was asked, like any mothers, you love your son. She says, yes, regardless of what happens, you realize he will still get to be part of your life. Yes. So again, she is asking, for this punishment phase, for the jury, for everybody to consider that he is remorseful, which also was expressed during testimony early on, that he did not deny that he did this, and that, another witness said he was just Anthony was distraught over what happened, that he was emotionally visible moments after all of this took place, and so we are hearing from his mother right now.
It looks like Lori Brown is reporting that. Karmelo Anthony's mother is the only witness the defense plans to call in the punishment phase. And no one can ask you to have mercy for the life of another person like a mother.
Yeah.
She's pouring everything she has into this plea. She's literally begging people at this moment to give her son a chance at life at some point in the future.
And again, he's looking at 5 years to 99 years in prison.
Yeah, they received an insane amount of money, which I hope all of it, if not most of it, was used for defense, attorneys, court costs, that kind of stuff. And will be, because I'm sure they're going to appeal this, and whatever they're going to try to do is going to cost money. So, but I did hear that they went on a lavish spending spree a little bit, and
not only were they twins, they were best friends. Thought we would hear from him.
It's just not a good look,
Karmelo Anthony.
They probably thought, oh, he's not guilty. Nobody's going to find him guilty. This is not going to go to court or whatever. We got some spending money here. I hope that's not what happened. I really do. But that's what it sounds like.
Get the charge, which will tell them, here's the range of punishment. Here's what you can do now.
And I think because, Metcalf's brother, Hunter, did not testify before the jury reached its verdict, and because we did not hear from
the problem is
before all this, we thought perhaps, both sides
I
were
think
saving these family members for
all this
stage
started
of
from
this
the
case, and it
participation
looks like,
trophy.
they decided we're just going to hear from one person.
Give them a
and we're gonna move
trophy.
on. Which is really how
Give
it's
little
really
Johnny a
the
trophy, even though he
trial
lost.
went. I mean,
Well,
they've been on
moved
a
along.
tight schedule.
Yes.
So
It has moved along, and
it's not a big deal to lose
Well,
anymore
loud
because you
questioning.
get something out of it.
Should a trial of this gravity go so fast?
And
People
then
were supporters of both sides. It wasn't
recently
one
with,
side.
the whole
People were
push
concerned
of
about
defunding the police,
there was pressure on the jurors from the very beginning. Knowing we're going to go
no cash bail,
done by the 12th. You're going to be sequestered.
letting people out who've been arrested even for serious crimes, just letting them out.
Based on what our eyes.
It's like there's no consequences. That's why, nobody's afraid to possibly, get in any kind of criminal trouble because, everybody else is getting out. They'll probably let me go and release me.
Karmelo Anthony is looking at 5 years to 99 years in prison. He was 17 years old when all
And
this
that's a
took
problem.
place. Important to also note that, both Austin.
There has to be always, there should have been, and parents should teach their kids, there's going to be consequences to your action. Just like here, when you get in trouble, I tell you to clean your room and you don't. When I tell you to do the dishes and you don't. When I tell you to vacuum and you didn't.
Not long ago that he
You know how you get punished? Yeah, well, the same thing happens, but in the real life outside this house, if you do something wrong, you can go to jail, and you'll be locked up in a cell, eating a couple times a day, food that you don't want.
At the time that jury
I was going to say no internet or TV, but now a lot of prisons have internet and TV.
Included in place of manslaughter.
But your freedom is restricted, and people can come visit you once a week or once a month, and that's it.
His bond will
That's
be
where
held insufficient.
young parents is one problem.
Very rare that you are found guilty of murder and you're able to go home from the court.
That's one problem.
So I would anticipate.
Remember babies having babies? That was happening.
Jury on recess now.
I remember hearing that in the 80s, 90s, babies having babies. Well,
we could very well have
this is part of that problem. I guarantee you.
And for Karmelo Anthony, and he would be in the control of the Collin County Sheriff's Department until which time the Texas Department of the prison system. They come and get him and take him to a prison farm where he would begin.
And he's looking at quite a range, like we said,
Yeah.
5 years to 99 years in prison.
Christine,
Maybe
yes.
the jury will consider
Way
the fact
too
that he does not have a criminal
angry,
history,
way
outside of
too
race.
aggressive.
That both of these students.
I mean, everybody's got a
are
short
doing well
fuse.
academically.
You know,
He
you
has
see
not
all
been
these
in a
street
good area
fights
for
and you
a
see all
tremendous
these
time. So I think the question here too is, which side of the spectrum
sucker
are we
punch
looking at?
fights. You know, I
Our
mean, you got,
Lawrence has also been
I
covered
mean,
with
not all of it
the
is just a
Karmelo
short
Anthony
fuse. A lot of it is
Verdict
just
trial. Amelia, can you
people
just,
snaps. Like,
set
why,
the scene and
the
tell us where exactly are
old
we?
lady's
What
just
is
walking down the
scene?
street. A guy
What
comes
are
from
we
behind and
seeing
just
here?
sucker punches
Sources,
her.
just kind of fill us in on what's going on.
Oh, she's dead. So what did she do?
Absolutely, Eden and Sean. I'm just here on the
You know, like,
sidewalk,
what's the point? It's like,
just
why?
right outside the Collin County
And,
Courthouse.
and
You
they're
can see
being
the
fed all
presence
this
of,
stuff by
law
somebody.
enforcement behind me. They have
You
not
know,
been
oh, the whole
at all.
slavery
They
thing and
have
reparations
allowed the
and
perimeter here, but obviously making their presence
white
known.
privilege or
I
whatever the
haven't personally
F you want to
seen
call
any
it.
clashes between
But it's just,
groups of supporters here. We've mainly seen people kind of gather.
and then you see all these fights, all these brawls.
Share their
I mean,
thoughts or, any chance
a
of
cruise
one another.
ship deck
We know that this
in a
is
complete
just
brawl.
taken on a
A
life of
Denny's,
its
an
own
IHOP,
that
or
are
whatever
viewed
restaurant
on social media. So there are a lot of people that are live
in a
streaming right now
complete
on the
brawl.
various
People
social
throwing
media
chairs,
platforms. We
breaking
also
windows,
have
I mean,
people
going
on
into the
live
kitchens,
stream.
and
There's a speaker that was playing
I mean,
gospel
complete,
music. As you heard
complete.
Alex
You,
share
they just
earlier, there
freaking
were some
lose
prayer
it
circles
and go
and
bananas like
some
animals.
gospel words and
I don't
songs
get
that were
that.
shared before the verdict was
I don't
reached.
get that.
I did get a chance to speak to one man who told me that he does not know either party. He was not in the courtroom for any of the testimony. He came out today to just see what justice would look like here and what the jury would decide. And he told me there is no winning on either side. He said, obviously, the Metcalf family have lost their son. Nothing can bring Austin Metcalf back. And then on the other side, Karmelo Anthony will now be taken away from his family, and the jury is deciding right now what that sentence will look like. And so I will say, when the verdict was first announced and the word and the decision was kind of spreading through the crowd, there was a lot of unhappiness, especially in the crowd and group of people where I was. We know that Karmelo Anthony supporters have worn purple, and there was a lot of purple out here. And a lot of people, they did not hide their unhappiness with that verdict, but they have remained here. And again, kind of gathering with each other, sharing some of their thoughts with the media. We also see some supporters.
Well, I hadn't heard this one, John, that he was confronted by Austin for stealing. That's the first time I hear that. I thought they didn't know each other. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
But so far, things have remained pretty calm. Again, there's been no physical confrontations, no clashes, at least that I've seen from my perspective. But you do see the law enforcement.
Hey, Sass. Yes, he was found guilty of murder. They gave the jury the option to consider manslaughter, but they went with murder. And right now, the mother just spoke to the judge and jury to beg for leniency and, don't go crazy on my son when you sentence him. He is eligible for 5 up to 99 years in prison. And I'm sure there's going to be an victim impact statement from Austin's family, his brother. I'm sure he died in his brother's arms. And shortly thereafter, the jury will give their recommendation on a sentence.
But that's what we're seeing happen. State Representative Jared Patterson posting a statement on the murder conviction of Austin Metcalf's killer. There it is, as you can see it. It reads in part that the murder of Austin Metcalf was a senseless and heartbreaking tragedy that forever changed the lives of his family, friends, and community. All of that is true. Nothing can restore the life that was taken or ease the unimaginable pain of losing a child. Today's outcome of a murder conviction is justice served. And then Jeff Leach also posting on social media, on X, Karmelo Anthony guilty of murdering Austin Metcalf, the right decision, justice delivered. And so it is, I believe you said earlier, or or may have been Alex, who talked about this being historic. It is a sad and historic case that will always be talked about, reviewed, and looked at here in North Texas.
Absolutely. And, since we've been covering this trial, obviously no cameras were allowed in the courtroom. And so we've been relying heavily on our crew. Our Lori Brown is inside of the courtroom. And so she explained, she was describing what was going on as Karmelo Anthony's mother took the stand. And she just added, just kind of painting the picture of what's going on inside. And she said the mother's statements were tearful. That she was emotional. She was telling the jury to really, have mercy for her son. And so that also paints the picture of just how distraught she is. And so I think you had mentioned this on both sides, right? So there's one side that is very emotional and another side that feels this was the right call, that this murder charge, this murder conviction rather, was what Karmelo Anthony deserved.
And I have to tell you, Lori Brown and Alex Boyer took us into that courtroom every single day. They were the eyes and ears of viewers here in North Texas, capturing the moments that mattered the most during the hours of testimony in that courtroom. Judges have their own discretion about whether to have cameras in the courts or not at the state level, and Collin County has limited media access, not just this trial. There have been others that have been high profile. They've sometimes allowed cameras, sometimes not. Not with the same. Every judge has their own discretion. Many feel like cameras should have been in the courtroom because of the gravity of this case, both sides so divided. At any rate, Alex and Lori did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I don't know why he was there. People are also saying, "Oh, it was raining. It was raining," and he went under the tent to hide from the rain. But from witness accounts, it rained earlier, and it was supposed to rain later.
The courthouse and also what's
some kind of thunderstorm warning or something, but it wasn't raining when this happened. Was he there to steal? I have no idea. Okay, that loss of audio was on their end, not mine. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's like a fist fight, Or it might have just been like a wrestling match, They'll tussle and people will break it up, hopefully. Although lately people want to record on their phones instead of break up a fight. They just want to record it and, be the first to post it somewhere. That's why I have to get those glasses with the camera, because I want to do both. I want to record it, but I want to jump in and break it up too. I don't know why there's no sound on here yet, but. What is this? Let me go to a different feed. Well, I was going to share another feed, people getting heated and yelling back and forth. I think this is going to be, you're going to have some people who are just trying to stir the pot and get somebody to.
Unity and respect. Peace, love, unity and respect. Peace, love, unity and respect.
Welcome back to Court TV Live on our continuing coverage of
I don't know why he's yelling at police.
In the case against Karmelo Anthony, a jury of 12 has come to a unanimous decision. In under 3 hours, this jury is made up of all non-African Americans, which was a point of contention after jury selection by the defense. Outside of the courthouse in Collin County, located in McKinney, Texas, this is a live picture of the scene outside. You see heavy security, and many people have come out. And this has been the case throughout the trial, that people have come out because it has been a late.
Breaking up a fight is not easy. It helps to have two people break up a fight. You ever watch a hockey game, and have you watched when the referees break up a fight? It's like they wait for this one moment where both of the guys fighting are just there's a certain time where they either fall or they lay down or things just come to a split-second halt. And then that's when the referees each jump on one of the guys, and then that's how they break it up like that. So it always helps to find that right time of when to do that. But also, if there's somebody else out there willing to jump in and help break it up, you got to pull them both apart.
It is your duty to hold this young man accountable for this senseless murder, and send a message that this will not be tolerated in this community. Make justice swift in this case. Michael Jafer's watching along with us. He's a trial attorney helping us through our coverage. And Michael, eerie words, make justice swift. Indeed, one could argue that maybe this jury listened under 3 hours, coming back with a unanimous verdict in a case that many people probably thought would have taken longer to come to a conclusion of, with 10 or 12 separate jurors. You never know, obviously, but those last words, make justice swift in this case. If you're the defense, what are you feeling right now?
This is what I call a toss-up in terms of the jury rejected one of the cases. They just outright, flatly rejected. They either rejected me as a defense attorney or they rejected the prosecution. Obviously, you hope they rejected the prosecution if you're the defense attorney. But they rejected one of the cases, and they are sending a message to one of the parties. They're sending a message that this is complete bunk. Your whole entire case is bunk. We didn't buy anything you said. I mean, again, 3 hours. Can you get 12 people to agree in under 3 hours on anything? Send a message right now in your company right now and ask everybody, where do you want lunch from tomorrow? Just send a message. If you have more than 12 people in your company, send a message. See if you can get 12 people to agree on what lunch will be tomorrow. You can't. It's not possible. And this is a life or death case, right? Life or death, meaning like they could convict this man to life in prison. Essentially, they could convict him of murder, right? Under 3 hours, 12 people. It's unbelievable. Can't even get them to agree on the flavor of sandwich I'm going to bring them, my staff, tomorrow when I cater. And sometimes I'll just have to cater from 2 different places because I give up on trying to get everybody to agree on where they want lunch from. So this is just
Michael, I got to
stunning.
cut you off real quickly here. We're getting notes from our Cody Thomas, who is now in the courtroom. He says that Karmelo's parents have walked in, and the Metcalfs have also just walked into the courtroom, and it appears as the twin brother Hunter is now with them. Hunter Metcalf, of course, was in the tent during this melee and did not testify for the state of Texas. Now, maybe he was being held as a potential rebuttal witness if indeed Karmelo Anthony testified, but we know that, of course, Karmelo Anthony declined the opportunity to take the stand in his own defense. But bottom line, just trying to set the scene for our viewers here. Cody Thomas is in place. As soon as the judge takes the bench, Cody is our only way of communication inside that courtroom as we watch the live pictures outside the courthouse. Quickly, Michael, on the Hunter Metcalf, he really was.
Yeah, I don't think it would have made a difference. It probably would have been bad if Karmelo Anthony, took the stand as a witness. That would have been very bad. There would have been no good reason to put him up on the stand. And I think that also goes to prove that they didn't have a case. That proves it. If it would have made a difference, maybe they would have put him up on the stand in his own defense. But they didn't. Obviously, it's not a good idea, so you don't do it.
He is, according to our Cody Thomas, now there and a huge part of this case.
I have to assume that it was not part of the strategy. I have to assume that this young man just said he doesn't want to testify. There's no way that there would be any strategy that would see you not having the twin brother not testify. He looks just like the victim, and he was there. He was in the tent. I don't think there was a strategy. I think the reason he's there now is because the case is over, and he might feel regret not having. How could you? I don't mean to make this kid feel bad. I hope he doesn't see me saying this, but how could you not support your dead brother, your slain brother, in your parents' quest to get justice for their fallen son, your brother? There's no way there was a strategy.
I disagree because he's done some interviews. I do think it might have been strategic in that, he was there and his presence in there may have complicated the clean case the state maybe thought they were presenting. Because just judging from the interviews that he has done, it's clear that he was more than willing to talk about his brother and the loss that can you imagine losing your twin? But maybe the overwhelming reality of hearing about your brother's loss and you factor in the medical exam, who knows? Bottom line is he didn't testify, neither did Karmelo Anthony, adding another bit of mystery because the jury didn't hear from either one of these players. There were 3 of them, right? There was Austin, who passed away, Hunter, and Karmelo. Those are the 3 that know what exactly transpired between the combatants.
Which makes it even more puzzling that he didn't testify. Listen, maybe it was his strategy. I just don't see how. If it was a strategy, Ted, it was malfeasance. It was a terrible strategy. If there was a strategy, that's why I gotta assume it's not a strategy because the state of Texas put a lot of resources into trying this case, and clearly they've either won it quickly or lost it quickly. So I just don't see any strategy that the state could have cobbled together that would have told them, hey, it's a good idea not to put him on the stand. Karmelo not testifying, I can understand that. That's one that I totally get. But I just don't see, I can't even imagine a strategy. I can use my imagination. I still can't imagine a strategy that would keep him off the stand.
Sonny Slaughter is joining our conversation as well. Sonny, less than 3 hours, this jury has come to a unanimous verdict. Your initial reaction?
Oh, wow. It's fast. I wasn't expecting it to be long, but it's a little quicker than I thought. But they had a lot of evidence. Well, on the prosecution side, so I'll look forward to hearing what the verdict is.
What about what we're watching outside, Sonny? It has calmed down in the last few minutes. People seem to have gone to their separate corners, but that could change after this verdict, and they'll know right away.
Yeah, my hope is that everyone remains calm no matter what the verdict is, because none of what they do that is destructive, that is agitating or irritating will change the verdict or have any impact except a negative impact. So everybody, no matter where they are in the world watching this, everybody just needs to remain calm, don't engage law enforcement, and don't cause any problems, because it's not going to change anything. It's only going to make it worse.
Okay, let's do this. Let's get a commercial break in right now, because our Cody Thomas is in the courtroom saying that parties are gathering. Both sets of parents are in the courtroom. The twin brother, Hunter Metcalf, in the courtroom just waiting on the judge and then the jury. Back after this.
All right. Looks like we'll have a recommendation on sentencing, which could be anywhere from 5 years up to 99 years.
That lost his brother for such a horrible, nonsensical reason at a track meet. They were both competing. Any observations about Hunter? Because this is the first time he's been in the courtroom. He wasn't called as a witness. What can you tell us?
Yeah, first time we saw him, Ted, and we were expecting him to be called under the prosecution's case. We thought that was going to be probably one of the final witnesses to kind of end their case with a bang, but they never called him. And, we kind of assumed that because he wasn't inside the courtroom throughout the duration of the trial, and we know testifying witnesses cannot be inside the courtroom in the gallery while other witnesses are testifying. So that's why people thought he was going to take the stand, but of course he ultimately did not.
I don't know. You know what? If things were different, then maybe you needed, his brother to testify to get a guilty verdict. Maybe they would, that's what they mean by strategic. But I think the prosecution was pretty confident they had this was an obvious, easy case. That's why they closed so quickly. And that's why this started on Thursday, and here's Tuesday. It's already over. Take away Sunday. But yes, there's no need to put him through, make him testify. Dude's obviously upset. His brother died in his arms. There's no need to parade him up there. There's no need for like a coup de grace. Oh yeah, let's bring in this witness to convince the jury. I'm pretty sure the jury was already convinced. There wasn't much convincing, so it wouldn't do any. It wouldn't have been good for anybody for his brother to testify to anything. But it was just not necessary.
Things are quiet. We've seen different versions of people in each other's faces, then sort of relaxed. Are people leaving, going home, or staying?
No, they're still congregating on both sides. There's kind of this, trying to describe it to you, right in front of the courthouse, there's kind of this middle road. There's middle road and some medians on both sides, but that middle road's kind of blocked off, and they're kind of in front of the barricades here with, I'm counting, roughly a dozen sheriff's deputies out here making sure that the peace is still here, but they're yelling across the way at each other, of course, the opposing sides here, whether they're for the Metcalf family, for the Karmelo Anthony family. So they're over here now. It's, I don't know, maybe 100 people out here. Of course, some of them don't want to get in the shot, so I'll refrain from, painting the camera over, because I don't want to instigate or escalate anything, but there's plenty of law enforcement out here making sure everything is safe.
And that has been the case throughout. This jury's worked very hard, and the judge has kept a very rapid pace. We thought maybe this case would go at least through the end of this week, but here we are on Tuesday and already wrapping it up. Even a 9-hour session on Saturday.
Yeah, I just said that.
Thursday, when official testimony started, jury selection was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Got underway on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 9 days each, minimal breaks, only 40-minute lunch breaks and a couple of 10-minute afternoon breaks. So the pedal was to the metal here during this case, Ted. We were all kind of shocked when the state rested after only 21 witnesses on Saturday, and then the defense called 3 witnesses Saturday. They called 3 witnesses Monday morning, and then they rested kind of abruptly yesterday. So they only called 6 witnesses. And of course, like you just said, we expected this to run through the end of the week, but here we are on Tuesday and the verdict, in the early afternoon. So it was a really rapid pace here, and they're already getting into the punishment phase. Well, they've gone through the punishment phase. Now they're going to get to the sentencing phase. So they're really trying to put a bow on this thing, and I guess for this community to move on and continue to heal on both sides of the spectrum here.
Will you get notification if, when a verdict has been reached in terms of the penalty phase?
Absolutely. I'll be there inside giving you the latest, Ted. I'll get a notification. We're on a thread here. All the media will know when to go back inside, when to be in there promptly, when they're done with that charge conference, and when they hand that off for the jury to begin deliberating. So, of course, when I get information, you guys will get information.
All right, which has been the case throughout. And Cody Thomas has been our eyes and ears in this case with no camera. Cody, thank you as well, doing a fantastic job for us, bringing the courtroom to life, including the guilty verdict and then the very short sentencing phase in this case. Sonny Slaughter is along with Judge Kimberly Mando, both still with us. And from a person watching, there was no way, Kimberly, that he was going to be found not guilty. I mean, he brought a knife to a fist fight. There was, let's face it, yes, 17-year-old young man, brain was working, whatever, but please, you can't respond to somebody pushing you by killing him. So it can't be a surprise completely that this was the jury's verdict.
No, it was, yes. So it was not a surprise that they were going to find him with some criminal culpability. Yes, he admitted that he did it. So the question was whether this was a reckless act or was it intentional, that I intend to murder him. And I don't think that that was the evidence or what his intent was. It was reckless, it was irresponsible, yes. And that's why I think that manslaughter charge was appropriate for this scenario. I do not believe that he woke up that morning and decided that he wanted to murder someone with a 3.5-inch pocket knife. So I'm surprised by the murder verdict. I was not surprised that he would get found guilty of something today.
Sonny, the self-defense argument obviously didn't land with this jury, and there were so many options that he did have, even at his young age, and you can argue what he thought was imposing the Metcalf brothers, but the idea that this was self-defense...
Yeah, well, what do you guys think? What's your prediction as to how much time he's going to get? I'm going to make a prediction of, let's see, they went with murder, not with manslaughter, which means they were like, no, he just flat out cold murdered the guy.
There were so many avenues away. The idea of self-defense, do you think that obviously it didn't hit with the jury, but could it have pushed them to all agree collectively very quickly, like, no, we don't believe that this was self-defense, rather than go...
I'm going to say...
form of manslaughter as your defense?
Well, I think the self-defense...
I'm going to say 39, 40 years, including time served, which he hasn't served any time yet. Oh, that's right. He has not been serving. He's been out on bond. I'm going to call it, if they know he's got to do half, I'm going to call it 40 years because they want him to be in there at least 20 or 25 before he can get out. That's
the
what I
issue
say.
as to whether he caused the death under immediate influence of sudden passion arising from adequate cause. If the defendant proves the issue in the affirmative by preponderance of the evidence that the offense is a felony of the second degree. Now, this is under their statute. So he could have raised the sudden passion, the defense could have, and it would have talked about the provocation that they alluded to by the individual killed or another acting person that was killed. So I just don't think that, I think the self-defense was the right defense, but I don't think that this defense counsel did everything that they could have done in addressing the issue. And they didn't do anything at the mitigation phase.
Linda's right.
Yeah, well,
at this point, we're here.
We're going off of the reporting out of the courtroom. We didn't watch it in real time the way the juries did, and they didn't take them long. Less than 3 hours, given the amount of testimony that they absorbed. They came back with that top charge. So the state did an excellent job, you could argue, in their presentation of this evidence. And now it is up to the same jury to decide the fate of Karmelo Anthony in terms of penalty, 5 to 99 years. It's a big decision.
And that's the thing, you're allowed to carry a knife in Texas, but school is not one of those places where it's permitted, and I'm sure he knew this.
Decides in terms of penalty. For now, we're going to get a commercial break, and then we're going to switch over to Florida. The other case that we've been just glued to today, the George Pino case. The surviving kids that were on this boat have been taking the stand. The father of Lucy Fernandez, who lost her life, testified earlier today. It is gut-wrenching. That's where we're headed when we return. Matt Johnson will be here. Stay with us.
All right, I'm going to try to find the more coverage of the same. I don't want to get away from that. Hang on. Here we go.
Is when race matters and when it doesn't. So the flip side.
A lot of this footage you're watching on the right hand side happened earlier after they read the verdict. You know how the media will play certain clips over in a loop over and over and over again.
The law would say,
and this is one of those kind of, if it bleeds, it leads kind of moments that they want to plaster all over TV.
And, the other issue, is certainly is.
Is that woman even related to the family? Like
a person of color. If there was
I think some people can get affected so much by something that's not even related to them, but
they would have seen it less criminal or not. And so, the discussion, our verdict.
What is a surprise, though? It shouldn't be a surprise.
Would have had to have been a unanimous.
Everybody knew. I mean, the evidence was there. He admitted he did it. Why is this a big shocker? People got to throw race in there for a freaking reason, for some reason.
See both sides of it. So it may have been, that for whatever reason, the state may have decided that wasn't the best type of juror for this type of case.
I guess that's what surprised me, Russell and Sean, because when you do think of teachers, you think of the profession, you think of someone who's going to weigh different sides of an issue, someone who would be neutral and look at the information. I mean, really look at the evidence that would be provided and deal with it on.
That's what I think. I'm going to say 40 to 50, somewhere in that range. They'll give him, a cool 20 to 25 years to serve before he's eligible. 40 to 50, that's where I'm going.
Would not have wanted to be on the panel.
Perhaps there's, and Russell can speak to this better than me, but perhaps there's the idea that they might be overly sympathetic to a young person, race notwithstanding.
Right, and I think that, but and I don't currently know the occupations of the other jurors, but if your strikes are among a conservative rancher who's let's say he has some cattle in North Collin County, and I have a teacher, I may choose to strike the teacher in favor of the rancher because I feel like the rancher may be less compassionate than the teacher. And so it's also a little bit of a relativity type thing. Or if I
Well,
have
lucky for
a
Carmelo, this is not a
person
capital
who
punishment case,
does what we
so
call hard sciences, engineers,
he will not be
they may
put to
be
death
less
for this one.
compassionate in their analytics.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that would come into play as well. And so that's going to be discussed. And certainly the attorneys for the state had to know that that would be discussed. And there'll be people that will always view that.
Which face?
They'll say, hey, yeah, no, they struck them because of their race. And that we'll never know what the answers
50 years,
will
yeah.
be on those questions. We'll know what the answers we got in court,
I think
what the ruling was. But
I think
certainly
the 40 to 50
we also know what
makes
the evidence
sense.
was in the case.
Hey, Grace, 35 to 40
In case you are just now joining us on our digital platforms,
in that range,
Karmelo Anthony
yes.
found guilty of murder in the trial for the murder of young Mr. Metcalf, Austin Metcalf, and the jury now deliberating punishment. They will decide. They will decide the punishment. But they still might be in recess.
I think we're still waiting for them to do closing arguments.
They're
So
still in recess. I guess they haven't gotten the charge yet.
Right.
And
right.
closing arguments.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear, or we won't be able to actually hear it, but yeah, I think we'll get closing arguments, and then the deliberation.
Yes.
Given the way that this is rolling, I'm assuming that he's not going to give much time for closing arguments.
I would guess not. Maybe.
You know what would have been good? Take that GoFundMe money, cut it off where it is, give it to the family. Whatever's left, give it to Austin Metcalf's family.
Maybe. I mean, if you.
That's what I
There's
say.
an intention to give an opportunity to be done today.
Okay.
And today ends at 6. Then I think, and you assume at least an hour or more of deliberation. But if not,
Hey, Nancy.
I mean, the other thing is the jury could also ask not to be sequestered, but just extend their deliberations into the evening.
Yeah, I think
Have you had a case where
there are people saying that they saw the video, which they didn't. There's a lot of just civilians saying they saw the video.
Yes, we have. We've had.
But they didn't, because everything that the witnesses said, any witness inside the courtroom, what they say matched what they saw in that surveillance video, which is completely different than people on the outside saying, oh, he was ganged up on by 4 people and all this crap.
And a relatively youthful person who's convicted.
Julie says 99. That's,
Most people
that's possible.
Jury don't necessarily show up wanting to give a person a harsh.
Oh, that lady going crazy out there. Yeah, I saw her earlier too.
Mm-hmm. And so that.
Donna said, "I hate to be a jury on this case or one similar. I hate the racial tension." Then it doesn't, but it's not even, and it shouldn't be that.
If we know more,
there shouldn't be no racial tension. This was,
we might be able to read
freaking just criminal.
The speed with which they reached the
Somebody did something wrong. Take it at face value, right? But no, somebody's always got to stir the pot.
From the descriptions I've understood, tend to be from more conservative professional sectors.
Yeah, how would things have been if Karmelo Anthony had been the victim? Oh my goodness, we'd never hear the end of it.
Well, Russell,
sad to say, we'd never hear the end of it.
Getting some reporting from Lori Brown, who's been covering this trial. She says that Judge Roach is back, but family is not in the courtroom. The judge, she said, just came and shook all the reporters' hands and thanked us for following the rules. Attorneys and the judge are working on the jury charge for the punishment phase. In light of the verdict, she says, this is my take on the key moments from closing statements. Prosecution gave 4 reasons self-defense does not apply. 1, provoke. Anthony provoked the encounter. 2, force disparity. You can't meet a shove with a stab. You can meet a shove with a shove or deadly force with deadly force. Number 3, reasonable belief from Worski. A reasonable person would not have plunged a knife into Austin Metcalf. Number 4, immediately necessary. Deadly force must be immediately necessary. Worski argued there was not immediate necessity to plunge a knife into an unarmed man. In addition, in Texas, a person who does not need to intend to kill someone for it to still be murder. If someone intended to cause serious bodily injury, that is murder according to jury instructions.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with those.
So,
So that's what they have to consider when deciding on a verdict.
Closing statement.
I'm sorry, when deciding on sentencing.
This jury, let's first talk about the defense. He's guilty, okay, of murder. What do you say now in this moment? There's really no need to talk about.
But I think you, depending on what your demeanor was during voir dire, I mean, I think you thank them for their time and their service, and you get right down to your issue. And I was saying, I don't know that you need 30 minutes to give the mitigation case for Karmelo Anthony, nor do I think you necessarily need 30 minutes to give the punishment case for Austin Metcalf. You should be about getting to it. It's later in the day. There's a certain amount of juror fatigue. I don't know if you've been in courtrooms during the morning time. There's a more energy just as the day goes on.
Yes.
As you get up to witness 20, and so you want to be able to keep attention, and you don't do that by having something that, in my view, is long-winded. But you've got to be, precise here. And so, and you've got things that you want to cover. Given the limited number of witnesses, there's not going to be necessarily new punishment stuff.
Right.
And so, again, I think it's hard to, you're really just rehashing from the existing evidence, mitigating things, with age, youth, and lack of criminal history being the main ones.
This guy reminds me of
same for the prosecution.
that movie that Denzel Washington played an attorney.
Let me bring something up that's way outside of the court.
What's the name of that movie? I'm going to look it up. It's actually a really good movie.
Earlier, I mentioned that State Rep Patterson, Jared Patterson, and Jeff Leach had put out these statements on social media. Now, Abraham George, the chairman of the state Republican Party, is doing the same thing. I've never.
It's called Roman J. Israel, Esquire.
Weigh in a local murder trial. These political voices.
You're gonna think this is funny.
Sending these kinds of messages. I don't know if that's more divisive to the.
This dude kind of looks like him.
Or what? Do you have any thoughts on that? It may not be something you want to talk about, but.
No. I think. I mean, the reality. I think it's fair to say our today's politics are more divisive than they were.
Except for the gray hair, maybe.
Let's say 10 or 15 years ago. And there's a lot of things that have changed. There's social media. But one of the things that politicians certainly are aware of is that they're judged oftentimes perhaps on one or two acts, very few acts. And it could be what you did or said after the Austin Metcalf verdict or the position certainly could impact.
Right.
So it changes.
Looks pretty close.
Trajectories, if you will. And I don't know that I think it's a good or bad thing. I think societal involvement in our criminal justice system is good. But, I don't know, for example, when politicians come out and praise one verdict and then condemn another, if that promotes respect for our jury system or not.
That's my point.
Yeah. So I'm not so sure, that I would go to that. But I think that they do that because there's at least an impression that their constituents, if I'm in your district and I'm voting for you and you didn't say anything on this or that, then maybe I'd have, the believe the ones that you have mentioned are more conservative. It seems like those are Republican, and there may have been more conservatives.
And one of the comments to one of these feeds, somebody wrote, Carmelo is about to be a flashlight for somebody for the next 20 years. Don't make me explain that. You guys can talk amongst yourselves.
I think we'll see that going forward.
And everything should not be colored with politics.
Oh. So, Russell, the jury got the case, started deliberating today at 10:52. They came back with a verdict a little bit after 1:30. It is now 3:42. And do you still see that all of this will end today, that it will wrap up today?
Yes, I guess. If you let me, once we know what time they start reading the charge and how much time he gives for closing arguments, but more likely than not, again, the jurors have some idea in their mind, and when they go into deliberations, there's going to be a debate regarding the number, and somebody may say, "Well, I could never agree to that." So I do think it may go relatively quickly. And in order for it not to do that, somebody has to feel very strongly about a particular position that they will not change no matter what. And I don't know, as I understand this group of jurors, and again, taken from that initial verdict, that type of division would be among this group of 12 citizens. So those are the things that are indicating to me that
Interesting.
this could still
I like this dude. Dude's got knowledge.
that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not some weight assigned to the things we've talked about that are plus and minus. It's just that number may be assigned, considered. You could tell somebody, hey, if it's a 17-year-old kid and I think 20 years is good, somebody else could say, no, 40 is fine with me. Do those people then say, well, let's meet in the middle at XY's at 30? It certainly could happen. Because remember, they don't have a true basis. There's no guide rail to tell you why 28 is better than 32, or you don't have a way to distinguish the differences in the numbers, and you certainly don't have a way to tell somebody that their number is wrong, at least.
Yeah, so there isn't like a baseline, something that says, okay, well, you got to do at least 15, although the minimum is 5, but you want to start at 15. There's nothing to say that. It's basically what they've been talking about throughout the whole case and what they spoke about during deliberations. Maybe they touched on, like, okay, well, we all, find him guilty. What do we think about sentencing? They might have it worked out already.
The range between murder, and no as to self-defense. But they had guide rails for that. And that's what allowed Bill Werski, to be able to hit those 4 points relatively quickly.
Right.
Because what he's saying is lining up, kind of with the jury instructions. And so it's not much of a debate, if you will. But on this issue, there's more latitude. But so yeah, I think if they start by 4, what they're reading the instructions, I think that they would choose to continue to deliberate as opposed to having to go home, be under guard, not being able to call your family overnight, um, being in a hotel room, perhaps with no TV, and provided, you know, neutral reading materials, if you will, and having to wake up, get on a bus because you're sequestered, come back to the Collin County Court.
I'm going to say, from what they're showing now, the live
purpose
video,
of
it looks like the
continuing
crowd kind of
deliberation.
has
But I
really
think a lot of
dissipated. There's
people
only a
that
small
vote
crowd
will
that's
choose to try to finish.
trying to get relief from the sun
Looking
under
at
tree.
a very large police presence outside of the Collin County Courthouse, certainly a very charged atmosphere, lots of reactions to the verdict today. But in terms of the crowd and the people who were there, the spectators, lots of conversation, lots of discussion, sometimes heated,
yes.
but
Peaceful.
very peaceful, yeah. And we've seen people for and against who are holding up the signs, who are doing the protest, supporting it or speaking out against it. But Sean, no violence.
No, and that's what it should be.
Yeah.
That's what our First Amendment, that should happen. That should happen. We should let our past.
That dude right there looks like he wanted to beat the crap out of that white dude.
Without assaulting one another.
Right.
Let me ask you real quick.
I think the white guy was saying, trust the process or trust the system. That's what he was telling the black dude.
Punishment. Is the jury required to be unanimous, or can it's not unanimous for punishment?
No, it has to be unanimous as well.
Okay.
So you've got to have an agreement of all 12.
Okay.
So
Under prison sentence. Okay. I wasn't sure on
Right.
that part.
and very rarely have there been juries that have hung on the punishment issue.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got to be unanimous. Again, they never have to explain their decision. If their identities have been, relatively sheltered, then they can render their verdict and go back to their lives. Some of them, I'm sure, though, I would not be surprised, will speak and say,
Well, the families
how
are now
they
back in the
feel.
courtroom, Clarice.
Yeah, Lori Brown's just reporting that both of the families are now back in Russell. So it looks like things are going to start to continue to move forward for the next phase.
And maybe to your timeline, Russell Wilson, maybe by 6 o'clock today, or they might stay later if they're in the throes of weighing the punishment at that moment. We're gonna take a break.
I would be. That's just the guess based off of experience, but you rarely have jurors that look forward to sequestration.
Right.
That's true.
So I think if we start by 4, particularly if we're just doing closing arguments, if there's 15 minutes aside, you'll probably see the prosecution will pass again, or be an argument about who goes first and who goes last. But if the state goes last, they'll let the defense go, and then they'll have sufficient time to have those discussions. And particularly, they don't have really much new evidence, right? It certainly wouldn't have been a surprise that his mom would say, save my son's life. And so that'll be, probably another discussion as well.
Yes.
Well, Russell, it's 10 minutes to 4. We're going to take a brief break and we're going to continue our coverage right after this.
All right.
I remember that video. I remember when this happened almost a year ago. And the mom is speaking, and it's stupid
Okay.
activist spokesperson that they hired, or that the family hired.
Okay, because at 4 o'clock, Clarice, we're gonna have to switch to IFB on our phone.
Oh.
This IFB, we won't be able to hear.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
Hot mic. There's a hot mic.
number is for live shots away from the building.
I don't have that.
Okay. Clarice, I'll put you in mind.
I like that lady's
Thank
voice.
you, man. We're
I
gonna,
really do.
get ready for the 4 o'clock newscast. Russell, thank you so much, Frat. All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye, Russell.
Talk with y'all as always. All right. See y'all later.
See you then,
All right.
man. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
So we need to get Clarice's IFB. Okay. Okay. All right.
Apparently, there was no previous beef.
So I have my phone from my
They say they didn't even know each other. Hey, Sandy. 60 years, you think, right?
Okay.
You know, I'm starting to lean more that way. Instead of 40 to 50, I'm thinking 50 to 60. Because you got to take into consideration how much life did they take away from Austin? How much life did he take away from Austin? Austin was, what, 17? How long would he have lived? Somewhere around another 60 years. On average, if they took away 60 years of his life, then maybe that's what they should, give Karmelo a 60-year sentence. A mandatory 50% of that. Let's see. I'm going to scroll somewhere else to see if anybody else is what they're saying. Here, let's try this one.
Before the jurors hear that, because obviously you're hearing very emotionally driven, emotionally charged statements from people, and so that's why it's done after everything's been finalized and done.
It could be prejudicial.
It could definitely be prejudicial, for sure.
Yeah, Chris, we have seen some of the most impactful and emotional testimony during those victim impact statements. I mean, it's gut-wrenching, and sometimes the family wants to get that off their chest. They've not had a chance to ever directly say anything to Karmelo Anthony. And remember, there was a gag order in this case. No one can talk until after the entire punishment and guilt innocence phase and all of the phases of this trial are over. So they've not been able to say anything or talk to the media or talk to anyone about what this has done. Now, they did do interviews with us right after and immediately after, but they've not at this point had a chance to really address anything else. And so this is their chance to speak directly to Karmelo Anthony. Chris.
I just want to give you guys some insight on what's happening in the courtroom right now. Jobin Puttaker just let us know that both families, Austin Metcalf's family and Karmelo Anthony's family, have both returned to the courtroom. He says that Austin Metcalf's family is slightly more talkative now at this phase of the proceeding, whereas Karmelo Anthony's family is still extremely quiet. The public has also been allowed back into the courtroom as well, and Jobin says he has seen a lot more young faces there in the crowd. We assume these could be classmates, friends, fellow students, for who either went to school or were friends or knew Karmelo Anthony or Austin Metcalf. I just want to get back out to our team out there on the scene there for one last question. In terms of this punishment phase, just again, go over with our viewers exactly what the jury, is able to consider at this point.
Let's ask you that.
Yeah.
Walk our viewers through what is the jury asked to consider in the punishment phase?
So they're going to be asked to consider everything that got presented to them in guilt, innocence, in punishment. Nothing outside of that, okay? And so they're going to be asked to consider that. And obviously the attorneys are going to make arguments that they can consider what those closing arguments are in punishment. But at the end of the day, again, in the charge, it's going to say, hey, it's murder. The punishment range is 5 to 99 years or life. If you find...
Or life. Okay, I didn't know it was or life.
You now can consider a punishment range
Holy crap. I mean, I know somebody mentioned it in the comments, I think, but I didn't think it was life was an option. Because then why wouldn't they just say, well, it's 5 years up to life is what they can do?
Well, I think for Bill as a prosecutor, and I think he's done a really good job in guilt innocence. He's always kept it to about this happened.
Are they back?
Intentional.
Let me see.
Was this intentional? Was it intentional? Was this self-defense? Was this to people that he knew would say no, it's not self-defense. So I think that.
All right, I'm going to go back to Fox. I like that.
Unfold right before our very eyes. We want to thank you for joining us, and we're going to have live coverage on Fox 4. Stay with us.
I'll stay with you. Keep talking. I love that voice. I admit. Not gonna lie. Well, that's good that the crowd, I'd say a lot of that people that's out there are media, cameramen, reporters, that kind of thing. And the rest you can't see them well. They're under a tree. Because in Texas, it's freaking hot like hell. Oh, they got no sound for us again. I'll probably come back to it in a minute. Is it? Oh, see, I have to look it up. Is that who that is? I don't think that's who it is.
And do I stay put? Or do you want me to just reference them?
Yeah, just
Just
reference them.
Okay, and step out of the way, or I stay put?
Stay put.
Perfect. Because I'm all on camera from what I believe, and it's not an overly long. It's just a live VO.
Yeah.
Tanya, I don't think that's Gloria Campos. Doesn't look like her from stuff that I looked up. These producers need to tell people, oh, you're live on camera. You're live. You're on a hot mic. He doesn't fart or something.
You should go and look out here, world. I'm not suggesting you go after anybody, but the woman doesn't have any allegiance to you. It's the guy who's got allegiance to you, even if you believed.
What would Judge Judy have done? What would Judge Judy have done? She would have said, why are you taking a knife there in the first place? This is a track meet. Why are you taking a knife there? Why do you have that? She would have drilled him for that, I think. All right. What are the other folks doing? Okay, the other channel is just going over, like reviewing. They all have the same, just a helicopter shot showing the crowd outside.
A guilty verdict from inside of the Collin County Courthouse. After just 3 hours of deliberations, Karmelo Anthony was found guilty of murder in the track meet stabbing death of Austin Metcalf. We are seeing live pictures outside of that very courtroom where a crowd has swelled following the verdict, and we're still waiting for jurors to begin deliberating a sentence. Thank you for joining us as we continue breaking news coverage on Fox 4 News at 4. I'm Eden Sheckholm. We have team coverage on the ground as well. Several Fox 4 crews getting live updates from inside of the courtroom and reactions on the ground. First, though, we want to bring in Fox 4's Sean Rabb, who has been part of our breaking news coverage all afternoon. He joins us now with what's going on at the moment in the punishment phase. Sean.
So at this very moment, the jurors are receiving the charge and will very soon begin deliberating and deciding the punishment for Karmelo Anthony. Listen, the charge says you have found the defendant guilty. It is now your duty to assess punishment. The issue of sudden passion has been raised. Sudden passion suggests this was not premeditated, this was not planned, that Karmelo Anthony didn't go to that track meet planning to exact violence and take someone's life. It was in the heat of the moment. And so because that has been raised, here's part of
Tanya, I found it. Clarice Tinsley, that's her name. Clarice. Hello, Clarice.
you may not sentence him for more than 20 years. If not sudden passion, you can sentence him to life. Sudden passion caused by provocation by the person killed. So that's where the jury are. They're getting the charge, then they will return to that jury room and they will decide how long Karmelo Anthony will serve time in the Texas Department of Corrections for the murder of Austin Metcalf. That could happen between now and 6 o'clock.
So if it was just a spur of the moment decision, he decided to pull his knife out.
Has ended.
Although he had his hand in the bag for a while.
Things have moved in this trial.
Apparently the whole time that he was there talking with
find out what they decide
Austin.
Very soon, surely by the end of the
But if it was a spur of the moment thing, just something that happened, the suggestion is 20 years.
What can you tell us about the reaction out there and just how people are feeling at the moment? When we spoke to you about 2 hours ago, it looked like tensions were rising. Have things calmed down?
They have for the moment, Eden, as you mentioned, of course, like emotions, the day has ebbed and flowed with the way folks have been reacting to what they.
That's good that there's time in between verdict and sentencing. Give the crowd a time to digest and then calm down and then eventually get bored and go away. Maybe a fresh crowd will show up, afterwards, but it doesn't look like it.
Excuse me. During jury deliberations, many folks were out here live streaming on social media. Others were simply sitting under trees and talking to one another, and others were chanting and praying. When word got out that there was a verdict, the crowd all but began to gather near, excuse me, the steps of the courthouse. Over a dozen law enforcement officers came out and formed a line separating the crowd from the steps of the courthouse. And from my vantage point, most people seemed to abide by the officers' orders. When the crowd learned that Karmelo Anthony had been found guilty of murder, I heard some audible gasps and moans, but many people stayed quiet. I think that they were really digesting what they learned. Then I heard a woman yell, "Let's stay together," and another woman got on a loudspeaker.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, thank goodness the crowd that was there that's pro Karmelo Anthony.
Who convicted him will also reach a sentence.
Looks like they probably knew what was going on. And they realize it. Yeah, okay. He admitted it. He stabbed him. He killed. That's why I think the outrage was very, very limited.
When that
Limited.
verdict first came down. Now, as we await what the sentencing will be for Karmelo Anthony, the fate, they are kind of more at ease, but keeping an eye on the crowd here, which again has remained relatively peaceful throughout the entire time that I have been here. Back to you.
It's good to know that things have been peaceful. We've really seen people on both sides, those who feel that, who agree with this sentencing or with this verdict, who are on Austin Metcalf's side and feel that justice was served, and those who are on Karmelo Anthony's side and feel as though that this was too harsh. Our Amelia Jones at the courthouse as well. She is in the middle of the crowd there. Amelia, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What can you tell us?
Well, Eden, we have seen people gather in kind of large groups on and off all afternoon. I'm not sure if my photographer, Sam, can kind of pan in here over my right shoulder. This is kind of what I'm talking about, just larger crowds gathering, just really sharing their reactions with one another about the verdict, potentially about what they believe is happening inside the courtroom as journalists like our Fox 4 Lori Brown is sharing updates, and then the journalists on the ground are sharing updates. You might see a lot of cell phones up in the air. We know that social media This case has really taken on a life of its own online. And so a lot of people are live streaming right now. They were live streaming before that verdict was issued, and they've kind of been live streaming ever since. Now, there are a couple of Collin County Sheriff pickup trucks and squad cars here. I have not seen any clashes with law enforcement. As you heard my colleague Alex Boyer say, the supporters and people who have gathered here have really respected law enforcement. Law enforcement has not had to kind of come towards the crowd, say anything. We haven't really even seen them interact much, but they do have a presence here, clearly, and they have created this barrier between the sidewalk here in the parking lot and the front of the Collin County Courthouse. I have been talking to people, and they shared their reaction with me after that verdict was issued, and one man told me that there is no winning on either side of this. Take a listen.
I just tell people this, man, is until you've been in this situation, you don't know how anybody's feeling. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, this is a no-win situation on either side, you know. You have a child that is not going to be here anymore. God bless his family. And to the family who's going through this situation with their son, it's unfortunate.
Now, we are hearing some, like Alex was talking, upset comments. We know that this trial, no cameras were allowed. It was not live streamed. It was not televised. But as someone who was in the courtroom every afternoon to hear testimony, I know that the journalists I sat next to, we were doing our best to share accurately what we were hearing and what we were seeing inside that courtroom. And the jurors were tasked to take all of the evidence that they heard in that testimony to come to this guilty murder verdict. Now, I'm not sure what people are waiting for out here. Obviously, we know that the punishment phase of the trial is going on right now. I'm not sure if they're waiting to see if any of the family members are going to talk or if any of the attorneys are going to talk. I haven't really had a chance to ask, why they are staying here. All I know is that they are, and we've just seen more people arrive to the parking lot. For now, Eden, that's what I'm seeing live out here. Back to you.
And again, we should note that Karmelo Anthony faces anywhere from 5 years to 99 years in prison. As Amelia mentioned, no cameras allowed in the courtroom. So we've had crews all over. We've had our Lori Brown inside of the courtroom. We've had Amelia Jones outside of the courthouse and Alex Boyer. So really, they have tried their best to share what both sides are arguing, what the defense is claiming, what the prosecution is claiming, and trying to paint the picture of what all is going on there. So as this case prepares for the punishment phase, Fox 4 is, of course, committed to keeping you up to date. We're going to be live on the Fox Local app when there is an update, so make sure that you turn on your notifications to receive right to your home screen. We will be right back.
Joy, thanks for being here, Joy. I think that too. Joey said, I think his intentions were to stab someone that day. He didn't have a specific target, but he was going to stab someone. And I mean, I think that, but then you got to think about, well, why did he go to that tent? Why did he go to the tent where, Austin was and other people were there? It's not like it was an area without witnesses. There were other people there. And then take that a step further, go back and go, why did he want to stab someone? I think he intended. I agree. I think he intended to stab somebody. But the question I would have is like, why? Initiation into something, or I don't know. No sound. No sound yet. Let's check in on a different. Oh, there's another feed that's got no sound as well. I guess everybody's taking a break right now. It's like, what good does it to have the Black Panthers there? What good purpose, if any, would there be to have the Black Panthers there, other than to intimidate, maybe? I mean, how do you? Okay, to show support, but support how? Why? How about? I'm surprised there's not more people for the Metcalfs. That kid shouldn't be dead. You know, shouldn't be dead. Let's see. Nobody's got sound right now. What the heck is going on? Try to find a different feed or see who else is streaming this stuff. No, this is old.
And the jury only deliberated for 2.5 hours in this case. And
okay, this is not live either, so sorry about that. Belfast is getting crazy. Ahmed is on. Let's see what he's got.
Welcome back to our breaking news coverage of the Karmelo Anthony trial this afternoon.
Hold on. That was loud. That was freaking loud.
Before the jury decides punishment in this case. And we just got an update from Jobin Puneker, who is actually there in the courtroom. He says that the prosecution has gone first here in these closing arguments and is talking to the jury about the victim in this case, Austin Metcalf. And he says that he will never have time with his parents. He'll never get his diploma or find his love. Jobin reports that the prosecution is showing a picture from April 2nd of 2025 when this stabbing at the track meet occurred. It shows coaches working on Austin Metcalf with chest compressions, and in the back of the picture you can see people praying. And again, this is a part of the closing argument going into the punishment phase. That jury will be deliberating that here in just a little while. Senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez and investigative reporter Tanya Iser are still at the courthouse there in McKinney, along with Keith Harris, attorney Keith Harris, who is giving us analysis this afternoon. Can we bring this a little bit up to speed here for our audience on air? I know that we've been talking about this on WFAA Plus in our streaming coverage this afternoon. The idea here that in this punishment phase, Anthony could get between 5 and 99 years in prison, but there is this possibility for the defense to seek 2 to 20 years in prison if they can prove sudden passion here. Can you all talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going to let Keith take that question.
So again, it goes to the evidence that got presented at trial. The defense is going to make arguments of why they think Karmelo's actions lacked time for cool reflection. That's what they probably really want to hit on in punishment, because they do want to make sure that they give a compelling argument. Since the sudden passion is going to be in the charge, they want to try to show every way from the evidence in the case of how they can tie that in, because they want the jury to find that so that they're limited to the 2 to 20 year punishment range, and that they're not looking at the upper end, the 5 to 99 years or life in prison for just the murder.
And Jason, one of the things that you said was that Jobin talked about how the jury is right now seeing a picture of the paramedics working on Austin Metcalf. The jury also saw that in a body camera video, and it was probably one of the most impactful parts of this trial, because you can hear Hunter Metcalf, his twin brother, screaming in the background, "My brother, he's my life, he's my," it is very gut-wrenching. And then you hear people praying and saying, come on, Austin, and that had a very big impact on the jury. We saw jurors in that courtroom crying. So when they're showing that, they're also, remember, the jury can go back and look at that video if they want, and that is very impactful and had a big impact on them.
Okay, so as the defense here is trying to make this move to make that range more 2 to 20 years instead of 5 to 99 years, I guess I would ask our attorney here, our expert here, does it bode well at all for Karmelo Anthony that in the punishment phase, the prosecution didn't put up any witnesses? As Rebecca was saying, the only witness in the punishment phase was Karmelo Anthony's mother, and that was for the defense. Does it bode well for him there that the jury didn't hear anything additional before they decide punishment?
Well, it bodes well for the defense to have the argument, hey, if he was a bad guy, you would have heard about it in punishment. The state would have brought that to you with other extraneous offenses. So it bodes well from the standpoint of what the defense is going to get to argue. But at the end of the day, the defense still has the case that they have. The jury has found Karmelo guilty of murder. And so at the end of the day, they're still going to have to assess a punishment because as the state's going to argue, you have a dead kid here and you have someone.
That's what I mean. How can it be?
So I think that it bodes well to argue.
What are they calling it? Something, what passion? And
all right, thanks for that to all of you. Stick with
see,
us.
I would think that's the opposite.
Of course, have much more coverage to come on that. We're going to take
I mean, if it was premeditated and he was going there and he was maybe going to stab somebody, he knew he was going to stab somebody, then he should get the upper part of the sentence. But I think it's the same. I don't think it makes a difference just because it was a spur of the moment, a emotional thing. Well, then it shows that he's got a short temper and he's willing to kill. I've had situations where I have a short temper, and never once have I thought about if I had a knife on me or if I had a gun on me at the time. It's like my first thought isn't, I better stab somebody or I better end someone's life. That's not even in my wheelhouse. So I don't know. I think either way, if somebody's capable of that, they're capable of that. Forget about this 2-year thing. Get the hell out of here. Let's see if somebody else has got sound.
Okay. Still waiting to check for some updates.
Hot mic. All right, everything's freaking out. I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Let me because this could go on for another couple hours at least, so will give me something to eat. I will be back this evening. 2 things going on. I've got some more VT Chronicles stuff to show you. Another one. Plus, I've been asked to be a guest on another podcast locally here in town. They want to talk about. They're talking about a data center that is being considered for, I think, the Harlingen area. So I'm going to get into that conversation. So sometime tonight, I'll figure out. I don't know if I'll go live before that or after that. but I'll figure out and let you know. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit, everyone. And I'll just post. I'll make a post once they decide what they're going to sentence him with. But I'm thinking 40 to 50. That's it. That's in that range right there. I think I'm comfortable with 40 to 50, somewhere in that range. So we'll see.